So I have an update for everybody on the stimulus bill, the stimulus negotiations. Donald Trump came out recently and threatened a veto. He basically said he would veto it. He said, listen, I don't like the pork that's in this bill. I don't like how we're sending money to Cambodia and all these other places. I want to get rid of the pork in the bill, and I also want to increase the payments from $600 to $2,000 per American, $4,000 per couple. So basically make these revisions and get it back to my desk. That's what happened. That's what Trump said. In fact, he did like a speech about it and tweeted the speech. So fast forward 3 days, 4 days, and Nancy Pelosi put up an amendment, or I don't even know if technically the right word is an amendment, because she tried to do it through unanimous consent, making that $600 payment $2,000. And the way it works with unanimous consent is you need everybody to be down with it. And so, of course, you had a bunch of Republicans were like, no, I don't want people to get $2,000. I object. And the fact that they object means the whole thing was killed. So what was going to happen is today, Monday, as I talk to you guys right now, there was going to be an actual bill proposed on the House floor, which would make that $600 $2,000. Now, the unanimous consent thing, I mean, it could have been a red herring. Nancy Pelosi probably knew it wasn't going to pass, so she wanted to do it that way so she could say, see, the Republicans are the problem. And she's not wrong. The Republicans are the problem. The House Republicans definitely are the problem. If they didn't object, then we would have gotten $2,000. But she always could have proposed it in a new bill, and then you don't need unanimous consent, and then it's going to pass. And so that's what was going to happen today. Is it still going to happen? I don't know. I hope it does. But after the 2000 attempt through unanimous consent failed in the House, Trump sat on it, and then unemployment insurance expired. And then after that, he acted and said, oh, yeah, no, totally, I'm going to sign this bill. This bill is wonderful. This bill is awesome. So he went from giving a speech saying, I'm going to veto this thing and you need to make these changes, to saying, oh, did I say I'm going to veto these things and you need to make these changes? How about no? How about I'm going to sign it exactly as it is? And of course, he tried to save face by arguing like, well, you know, I've gotten word from the Senate and I've gotten word from the House that they're going to take up some of the things that I talked about. So one of the things that they're going to take up is the $2,000 payments. I'm very much looking forward to that. Now that's very unlikely to pass. Like, it might get through the House because the House is overwhelmingly Democratic, but it ain't going to get through the Senate. And Mitch McConnell, I don't even know if Mitch McConnell will let it up for a vote. I highly doubt he'll let it up for a vote, but if he does let it up for a vote, I don't think he's going to go anywhere. So basically, Trump was bluffing the entire time, and his bluff was called when, you know, they didn't act immediately and they didn't get something through immediately that would have been 2,000. And now we're right back at square one. So some people are just happy that this relief bill is getting signed because we needed some relief, of course. On the one hand, I totally agree with that. If we didn't get relief to people ASAP, I mean, we're up Schitt's Creek without a paddle, no doubt about it. But on the other hand, yeah, if you waited one more day, you might have been able to get that $2,000 payment to your desk. It definitely would have gone through the House. Again, the Senate's another question, so maybe it's 50-50 as to whether or not anything would have happened there. If the original bill wasn't signed and the $2,000 payments got to the Senate, and then if Trump declared all-out war on Mitch McConnell, you never know what could have happened. But ultimately, Trump's cuck nature won out, just like I was telling you from the beginning. He could have argued from day one for the $2,000 payments. Instead, he sat on the sidelines and let Mnuchin take the lead and Mitch McConnell take the lead in negotiations with Democrats. And then at the very last minute, he interjects himself and says, now I want $2,000. Well, where were you 4 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago? Where were you on that? You were nowhere to be found. So ultimately, he cucked out because he's like, oh, no, I totally signed this bill. And the other thing that's hilarious, I love this fact. So Trump goes through the bill and does a line by line, not the whole thing is like 5,000 pages or something ridiculous. So I doubt he was able to go through the whole thing, but he did what is effectively a line item veto, which is like when the president can go through a bill and take out individual provisions that he doesn't like. Now, the only thing about that is we don't have a line item veto in our government. So Trump doesn't have that capacity. He doesn't have that capability. He's not allowed to do that. It's not legal for him to do that. So he takes a red pen and does the line item veto, and then he says, I sent this back to the House, and I'm showing them which things I'm against. And the House and the Senate are already like, we're not going to change this. We're not going to take out these provisions. They have the ability to take out those provisions, but they've already said, we're not going to take those out. So basically, Trump just wasted time playing with a red marker to say, I don't like this, I don't like this, I don't like this. And then he still signed the bill, and it's going to become law. He really did cuck out. Like, if you were going to make this stand, at least get your $2,000 payments. And he didn't. He didn't get them. And again, since he waited, now people are going to miss a week of unemployment at $600. So that's really going to hurt people. If he was going to sign it, you should have just signed it from second one so that you don't miss a week of that $600 payment. So in an attempt to increase the payment to $2,000, he actually reduced it by $600. Oh, Jesus Christ. He's such a cuck, man. He really is. He's all bark and no bite. But by the way, the good news from that is any thought of like the diet coup that might happen, this is just, forget evidence. This is proof that there's no way he could plan or follow through with a coup, like organize well enough to do a coup. He couldn't even sufficiently find a way to force the provisions he wants into the relief bill. He folded after like a few days. So there's no way that he's organized enough to orchestrate some sort of military coup. He's tripping over his own dick, falling all over the place. So it really is just sad. But man, I really hope that those $2,000 payments, it will likely pass the House. They'll probably still vote on it. It'll likely pass the House, but then it gets to the Senate and it probably dies in the Senate. Trump would have needed to actually go to war with McConnell, and he didn't. Imagine cucking yourself to Mitch McConnell, Turtle Boy, the guy who's never said an interesting thing in his life, and he looks like the Grim Reaper, and he's nothing but like a shell of a human being doing the bidding of corporations. You're gonna lose in a standoff with that weirdo? Homeboy's got a 21% approval rating. Donald Trump has like a 40% approval rating. It basically doubles his approval rating, and you couldn't take on a battle with Mitch McConnell and win? Cuck of all cucks. So anyway, but the good news is at least people are getting some relief. I don't think this bill is nearly as bad as the CARES Act was. The CARES Act, it was very corporate heavy on the bailouts, and there weren't enough provisions that really mandated what they do with those funds. So what you saw is, like Boeing, for example, took billions of dollars and then fired tens of thousands of people anyway. This isn't as big of a corporate bailout. There are more provisions that are necessary and for the people. So not as bad as the CARES Act at all, but I wish it was that $2,000 number, and he's all bark and no bite. He huffed and he puffed and he was going to blow the house down, and instead he face planted and made himself look like a fool and then tried to save face. So there you have it. Donald Trump doing Donald Trump things. I mean, I guess you could have said this was somewhat expected, but if you're going to make the threat, follow through on it. It's just like where he's always tweeting, we're going to get out of Iraq, we're going to get out of Afghanistan, and then like a week later we hear some general behind the scenes talked him out of it. It's like, okay, then then don't even go on Twitter and do your whole fake anti-war tap dance. Just own it from the beginning. You're so weak. You're the commander-in-chief. You absolutely can, at least when it comes to foreign policy, you can act unilaterally. You can decide what we're going to do and when we're going to do it. But he does, and then he backs off of it. It's just, ultimately, listen, keep it real. I don't know how many times I can say this. The guy's a cuck. He's a massive cuck, and that's crystal clear.